The Florida Panthers became the first team to clinch a berth in the Stanley Cup Finals. Armando Velez of Locked On Florida Panthers joins us to discuss how they got there and what we can look forward to in the Cup Final. All that and more next on the road to the Stanley Cup. Gil Martin here. The Locked On Road to the Stanley Cup continues as we welcome back Armando Velez from Locked On Florida Panthers to talk about his teams clinching the Eastern Conference Championship and earning a berth in the Stanley Cup Final. And Armando, such a dramatic series, even though it was a sweep. What was the biggest reason that the Panthers were able to get past Carolina in just 4 games?
Yeah, you said it best. How how it was as close as can be, and even Rod Biddemore on the other side, the head coach of the Carolina Hurricanes, talk about how they didn't, even though it was a sweep, that they didn't, they just that it was a lot closer than it was, and got to give credit to the opposition for challenging the Panthers, and it was the Panthers' ability to not let games get away from them as well. I mean, in both games 1 and 2, they only had 1-0 deficits, and that's it. The Panthers were able to take away the what the Carolina Hurricanes were giving to them, and the Florida Panthers were able to capitalize on their mistakes as well. And both teams had a total of 14 power play opportunities, and the Carolina Hurricanes converted on 2 of them, and both of them happened in game 1. So the Panthers were able to neutralize the power play front as well in that aspect. And and you also go back to game 1 where Sergei Bobrovsky also did not give up a goal at even strength as well. So even when the Carolina Hurricanes did get those 2 power play goals, the Florida Panthers were able to take their game away. And what more can you also say about Matthew Tkachuk? I mean, game-winning goal in game 1, 12 seconds left in quadruple overtime. Game-winning goal less than 2 minutes into overtime in game 2. Sets up the power play to Sam Reinhart for that 1-0 win in game 3. And then, of course, 4.9 seconds left in game 4 to get that game winner, a shot off the post. The Panthers retrieve it, and then he scores on the power play. And he had 2 power play goals on the night in game 4. What more can you say about Matthew Tkachuk on the offensive end? Sergei Bobrovsky on the defensive end. Alexander Barkov as well, doing on both ends of the ice. It was just a total team effort for the Florida Panthers, and very well coached series by Paul Maurice as well, in order to take away what Carolina was doing well. And of course, we know that there were injuries on the other side too, but still, this Carolina Hurricanes team, they really challenged the Panthers, regardless of whether it was a sweep or not.
So you mentioned a number of possible candidates. Who was the series MVP for the Panthers in your mind?
That's difficult. I want to say 1A and 1B, but if I had to choose one in this specific series, I have to say it's Tkachuk because of the timeliness of the goals. But it's like by just a hair, just a hair. Because I mean, you think about Sergei Bobrovsky. I mean, like I said, not a single even strength goal in game 1, gets a shutout in game 3, and then all these games were close as well. But as far as that, just because Matthew Tkachuk might have been the series MVP here, he's not my Conn Smythe favorite though. It's right now it's Sergei Bobrovsky that is my Conn Smythe favorite for the Florida Panthers because of what Bob has done ever since coming into the series in round 1 in game 3, coming in for Alex Lyon, coming in and playing in game 4, not looking so sharp, and then the Panthers going on this 11-1 run, including 8 straight road wins, to just 2 games off of tying the record for consecutive road wins in a single playoff with the 2012 LA Kings. And it's all on the backs of Sergei Bobrovsky. I mean, in this series, Bob was 168 and 174 in the series. Good for a 960 plus save percentage in the series, but it's just those two are the two guys who are just been lifting the Panthers and the main reasons why they are in the Stanley Cup Final for the first time since 1996.
Any weaknesses that you feel were exposed in this series that have you concerned heading into the Stanley Cup Final?
In this series, in this specific series, I don't think there was really much that was too much exposed. I mean, you give. I mean, I guess if the Carolina Hurricanes took advantage of a few bad bounces here and there. There wasn't that goal that Bobrovsky gave up that was the of course goal. The Panthers did turn the puck over a lot in Game 4, but they were bailed out quite a bit. There was more exposure from in the first two series, really, versus this one. As far as the Panthers PK unit was not great in the Boston series, 59%. It got better as the Toronto series went on, but it just goes to show that this team has just gotten a lot hotter and has improved as the playoffs have gone on. But as far as and fourth line scoring wasn't really there much really in the Toronto series and even at the beginning of the Carolina series, and then they get a huge goal to give the Panthers a 3-2 lead when Ryan Lomberg scored. So I guess if you want to talk depth scoring, I guess you could point to that. But the Panthers, they came up huge in that department. I mean, Anton Lundell, Etulis Theranen, and Sam Reinhart. I mean, even though Sam Reinhart scored on the power play, the Lundell and Luostarinen had a little bit of a quiet series in the Eastern Conference Final after having a great second round. But when those guys weren't stepping up in the conference final, it was other guys stepping up. Matthew Tkachuk had a little bit of a quiet second round as far as goals because he didn't score any goals, but he was getting there. He was getting his helpers. He was getting in the faces of opponents. So when one unit hasn't performed to its best, it's always been this whole playoff run of someone else picking each other up, and that's what's the great thing about this run, and the fact that the Panthers were a Brad Marchand breakaway chance away from losing in Game 5 in round 1, and also being down with a minute left in Game 7 before scoring with the extra attacker, thanks to Brandon Montour, which Brandon Montour might have had also had a quiet series offensively for the Panthers in the Eastern Conference Final. Though they were so many times where there were a few inches away from not even advancing to even round 2, and it's just the catching lightning in a bottle that the Florida Panthers have had all postseason ever since April 30th. April 30th was when they won Game 7, and that was the real confidence boost that the Panthers had when beating the Boston Bruins. I mean, they beat the best record in the NHL. They beat the second best record, the fourth best record in the Carolina Hurricanes. And now, as of we're recording this, we don't know who the opponent is yet. And if it's the Vegas Golden Knights, they're going to have to go up against the fifth best record in the NHL. So they are not intimidated by anyone who they're going to face.
Would you say at this point that this playoff run has been a success, or would coming this close, getting to the Stanley Cup Final for the first time in the 21st century and falling short, how would that leave this team feeling?
As a person who covers this team and who doesn't put on the skates and goes on the ice, I say it is a success regardless of what happens. But you're here. If you're the players, you have made it. You never know when you're going to make it back to this position. And listen, the window is still very open regardless of what happens because you're going to have 7 more years of Tkachuk and Barkov in the mix. You have 2 more years on Ekblad's deal after this, 3 more years on Bobrovsky's deal after this. And listen, if they do end up winning it all, nobody's going to complain about a $10 million cap hit anymore for Sergei Bobrovsky. That's been the complaint for the first 4 years. But the time is now to do it. The you are here. No, and it's don't waste this opportunity if you are the Panthers, because you never know if you're going to make it back.
Fair point. Armando, thank you so much. That does it for our Florida Panthers review and preview here on the Locked On Road to the Stanley Cup. Be sure to subscribe to or follow Locked On Florida Panthers for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And we're now available on SiriusXM on the SXM app as well. The Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.